Hi, this is John Pettigrew, and you're listening to Talking Through My Hat, a podcast that explores bookish businesses, the fantastic people who create them, and what those people have learned. I'm a hat wearer, a recovering editor, and the creator of Future Proofs, enabling editors and authors to work better online. To find out more, visit wearefutureproofs.com or follow me on Twitter at John_Pettigrew. Welcome back to Talking Through My Hat. Today I'm talking to Bridget Shine, Chief Executive of the Independent Publishers Guild. So welcome to Talking Through My Hat, Bridget.
Thank you, John. I'm delighted to be here.
It's lovely to have you. So for anyone who's listening who isn't familiar with the Independent Publishers Guild, the IPG, how would you describe it to them in a kind of a potted form?
Well, the IPG is the Trade Association for Independent Publishers. We've been going for 56 years.
That's quite a while.
It's a long time. I know we've aged well. And it's a vibrant, active trade association, and we have more than 600. We have about 630 members. And they range from international heavyweights to medium-sized owner-managed companies to very small startups. And it's really a fascinating time, I think, for independent publishers right now. But we exist to help our members do better business. And we do that in a number of ways. So from having big conferences, bringing people together, really, providing information, disseminating information. We have small dinners, getting people together. We run a mentoring program. We have a free online training portal, which is a skills hub of the IPG, which is, we launched it last year and it's already been shortlisted for awards. That's a really exciting because, as you probably know, training is one of the things that when budgets are tight, that's the first thing to go.
Yeah, always. So
always, you know, our central line is that we exist to help our members do better business. So something like providing free training is a great thing. We also run a very active mentoring program, and that's a great way of our members helping one another. Yeah.
So what makes an independent publisher? What qualifies a publisher to join the IPG as opposed to a non-independent one? As you say, it's not about size, is it? There's something else going on here.
Absolutely. And well, the lovely thing is, when the IPG was formed in 1962, it never occurred to the publishers, the independent publishers who were setting it up, that there would be huge, big publishers who were keen to join the IPG. So our M&As are all embracing. You know, we're inclusive rather than exclusive, let's put it that way. Yeah. So, I mean, we used to have a very strict definition of what an independent publisher was when we, at one stage, our awards were for independent publishers who were owned by a single entrepreneur or a group of entrepreneurs, and it wasn't publicly traded. However, that actually isn't the case in terms of becoming an IPG member, because it is more about the spirit. And I've companies who've sort of said, well, you know, we are more independent than companies who are beholden to their bank managers, for example. So it is about the spirit of care and share, because that's really what it is. It's about sharing information in a case of best practice, obviously. Sharing, helping one another, and our members are so diverse. So we have published academic, professional, educational, trade, children's, and what we have a very vibrant area of what we call specialist consumer. Because a lot of independent publishers are niche. You know, they publish in a particular area. They will be experts in that field, but they'll probably sell very well internationally. They'll have an international sort of brand awareness, if you like. They will, but you know, that's just a particular specialized niche that they publish in. They're not sort of broad. So in terms of, to answer your question, you know, how do you find an independent publisher? It basically, an independent publisher, I would say, is one that is not publicly traded. But as I say, our membership allows us to have a broad range of publishers who might be sort of museums and galleries and things like that.
Oh, that's really interesting. So how did you first get involved with the IPG?
Well, my background, I worked for a large publisher. I'm a literary agent, and then I went to work for a small publisher, and it was just at the startup phase. And I say this to everyone, but one of the smartest things we did was we joined the IPG. And I had a very senior role in this company, and I was very young, and I had, some experience in certain publishing. But the thing about working for a smaller company is you cover so many different facets of it.
You can't just do one job. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I'd worked for a literary agent, so I understood sort of the basis of contracts and author relations. I'd worked in editorial, I'd worked in production. So I had actually covered quite a few, but I still had some pretty big gaps in my knowledge. I joined the IPG, and I went to the spring conference, and it just opened the door to this world of people who were fantastically experienced, who were generous with their information, and really was one of the best things that I'd ever done. So I came away. And that is now more than 15 years ago. And, some of those people are my great friends today.
Yeah.
That was my first introduction to the IPG. And then a few years later, the position was advertised. I applied for it and I got the job. And I've been, running the IPG since 2004.
There was a period partway through there, wasn't there, when your job title changed? Was that just an internal structural thing?
That was exactly it. So I joined as executive director, very well spotted, and and really it just the chair a few years into it was just saying, what you're doing is really a chief executive role. What I say to everyone is that the look and feel of the IPG in 2018 is radically different to what it looked like when it first started. But that spirit of camaraderie, that willingness to share information, that real generosity of people giving their time and to help other publishers, fellow publishers, is exactly the same as it was all those years ago. And I felt incredibly lucky when I got the job, and I feel so privileged to do what I do, because I know it sounds cheesy, but we believe that we do make a difference. We really do make a difference. I can think of lots of different examples where we've put people together, we've helped people. I spend a lot of my time when people have issues sort of with their suppliers, as it were. So it could be with a retailer, in which case I get involved and help. And so my job is very broad ranging, but I feel incredibly lucky to do what I do. So. So yes, no, it's that's why I having been an IPG member, and I exhibited. At one point I haven't told you, we have collective stands on our book fairs. I exhibited on an IPG stand at Frankfurt Book Fair, for example, whereupon as a result of exhibiting there, we secured Australian distribution, and we were a really small company, and we would never have had that exposure. And to this day, the company that I was the publishing director of, they're still using that distributor in Australia. So fantastic. It's really
So if we go back to all those years ago when you first took on that executive director role for the IPG, what was it that attracted you? Why did you want to do that? Why did you take on that role?
There are two things really. I was excited at the prospect of being in the centre of what's going on in the industry, because you really are with key industry matters. If there's something going on, IPG gets involved, obviously, and our membership, I should say, has doubled more than doubled actually since I've done the IPG. But even so, at that point, I think we were probably just under 300 members. Still felt like this was a big task to get our teeth in. Also, I just loved that challenge of, being in the centre of what was going on in the industry. And the other thing, which I knew at the time, and I was absolutely right, is that I work now with some of the smartest people in the industry, and it's incredibly stimulating. So I knew I was actually a former president. He was chair at the time, Sonny Leon. He was sort of in charge. There was a panel, obviously, that interviewed me for the job, but he there, and it was a really exciting time to sort of move IPG on to a few grades. It's always been fantastic, but there were certain key things that I could see that we could do more of, or we could do better. And today, before I joined the IPG, the longest I'd ever been in a job was 3 years, because normally I would come in, I would work incredibly hard, and then I would sort of think, right, I've done all I have to do here. Time to find a new challenge.
The natural end has come. I've learned all I'm going to. I've contributed all I'm going to.
Exactly. And it's time to have a challenge. But with IPG, the culture of the IPG is, okay, how can we do this better? We've recently finished our spring conference, our annual spring conference, the biggest one we've ever had. And the feedback was extraordinary. Actually, John, I think you came to that, didn't you?
I did. I was there. And one of my, these first podcasts was actually a review of the spring conference.
Yes, that was great. But you enjoyed it too. I
did. Well, indeed, part of the stimulus for doing this podcast was some stuff I was hearing at the conference. It was really, really good.
Well, thank you. That's lovely. It's lovely to hear. I never hear that too many times, I can tell you. But I'm now just working on other things going forward, and it's just so stimulating to say, okay. And we had several firsts, if you like, at that conference. We our conferences will now be CPD certified. We have a fantastic app to connect people. We always start from how can we do things better, how to make things work, and that's a great. That makes your job interesting, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Going back to something you were saying there, in the time that you've been kind of in charge of the IPG, the membership's doubled in that. What I think you said 15 years.
Yes.
Obviously, some of that is credit to you and the team for getting the word out to the publishers there. But how do you think the balance is? Is it partly representation of an increasing number of publishers? Because obviously with independent publishers and small publishers, some of them come, some of them go. But do you get a feeling there's more publishers out there, or are you getting more penetration of the ones that are there?
It's a brilliant question, because it's a question that we're doing some research on now. How big is our universe?
Yeah.
And your point earlier about how do you define an independent publisher? So I would say it's a combination of things. I think that people, what we see is a lot of, say, acquisitions when bigger publishers with smaller members. Invariably, a handful of people from the company that's been sold will go on to start new companies, and we see that all the time. That we also see people who have worked for big companies. So our membership is made up of what I affectionately call quite a few corporate refugees. So they work for big companies who then, for whatever reason, decide they want to set up on their own. Our membership comes from that. And then what we've really seen is people coming from completely different walks of life. And as part of their business, they have publishing content. So, for example, one of our speakers at our conference, our spring conference, was Zishan Qureshi, who set up medical books. He's a doctor. He's still a doctor. Since London Book Fair 5 weeks ago, we've had something like 30 companies join us. And again, some of them are people who, again, have left companies, gone on to a new company where they haven't been an IPG member, so they've rejoined. But others are people who have worked in other forms of media, who, again, now they have a few books and they're looking to grow that arm of their business. So we see that in great, different strands, really.
Yeah. So when as you say, you've got clearly very specific goals for the IPG and how you want it to move forward and what areas you want to look at to serve the members. How do you go about learning to run an organisation, a business better? Where do you go? Do you go books? Are you talking to particular people, websites? What's your kind of go-to?
It's a combination of things. As I mentioned earlier, I just feel incredibly lucky that I work with, in particular, the IPG officers. So these are the chair or vice chair and our president, for example, Jonathan Harris. These are extremely successful business people who run businesses. Jonathan sold his business to Sage. And I've learned an immense amount from working with them and guidance from them. And that's been a real plus. So from that, I'm just an avid reader of business and books, in terms of, we often have authors who come and speak. And so it could be, from how to be a productivity ninja, for example, We had somebody talking about persuasion. We've had some great speakers about negotiating and persuasion and things like that.
I suppose one of the advantages, I guess, of running a network like that actually the action of doing that brings you that insight, that skill, that exposure that you need to do more better.
Exactly. I gave a talk at the Book Society 6 weeks ago, and I finished off by saying, thinking about lots of independent publishers. There's a quote by Steve Jobs who said, work takes up a great part of your life, and so you should do what you think is great work, and to do great work, you've really got to love what you do. Well, at the IPG, we really love what we do.
Yeah.
I think that shows. I was talking to somebody else about another conference, and they said, yeah, but those people don't care as much as you do. I mean, for us, everything is personal. I choose the background music going on at the conference. I will say to the techie, the music. That's a slight obsession with attention to detail.
Yeah, that's what comes through with the conferences. That it's not done for the money. It's not done for the business. There's a passion for the people who are attending and helping them get the most out of it. So when you think about kind of the next 5 years of the IPG, how do you approach making sure that the IPG is still around 5 years from now or 50 years from now?
That's a great. I think that we're so in tune with our members in the sense that we ask for feedback for everything that we do, and sort of mapping out the next few years. I'm sure we will change some of our offering. Mm-hmm. And that will definitely be, I'm sure that will be the case. I think that I'd like to think that we'll probably be a bit bigger than we are now. I have a reason for that.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the bigger companies buying the smaller companies, there's still smaller ones coming up and people moving over, and there's still a lot of growth there.
Yeah.
It is amazing. But just to give you an example, I was anxious when there was in 2008 to 2009 economic downturn. I was anxious that people would think, you know what, we have to cut costs, and I think we'll forego being an IPG member. I couldn't have been more wrong. That was actually a real turning point for us, and our members grew at every level. So from the bigger publishers joining us to smaller companies to medium-sized, and the school of thought seemed to be, in times of uncertainty, people want the security of an umbrella organization.
Yeah.
And so I think your question about, we always need to make sure that we are relevant. We've always got, provided that we continue to really listen to our members, understand what they want, and help them do better business. And if you can measure your worth in terms of, so we have lots of special deals, we have special offers. Yeah. We have some deals where people have earned out, they earn out their membership subscription just in that one deal, if that makes sense. But access, we give members access to a whole sorts of resources that they simply wouldn't have if they weren't an IPG member.
Yeah.
So as long as we continue to understand what market trends are and, what members need to do better business and fill that gap and work hard to do that, then I'm really very confident of our future.
So in the kind of the 15 years you've been running the IPG, what have you learned about yourself that you kind of maybe didn't know before?
It's such a good question, because I've never really thought about it. I think I know that I love challenges. Mm-hmm. The job has given me, I think, a sort of creativity in terms of that blank canvas of thinking, right, what can we do? And that's a really exciting thing, that you think, right, what can we do? And then bring that through to fruition. I have to say, ably supported by a whole lot of other people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So what is it then that you find hardest about running the IPG?
There are a few obviously practical things. I mean, I have a young family, and I don't live in London, so I am based in Wales, and so obviously there's just a very practical thing, family life and having a very demanding job that is geographically demanding. That is, and that's why I'm a real I feel really passionate about helping other working mums, and that's why as I said, I had 2 members of the team come back from maternity leave, and they we've really tried to restructure their roles so that they can work, but they also have enough family time too, and that it's benefited them, their family, but also the IPG and their IPG colleagues who don't have children and who do work full time. It's trying to keep everything happy.
Yeah.
But that has been a challenge. The other thing, obviously, it's quite humbling how much people want the IPG to be involved in everything, absolutely everything. And I'm a real believer that what we do, we must always do well, rather than trying to be a real scattergun approach. So it's a question of really making sure that we stick to our priorities in our 3-year strategy plan, and not be pulled off to be doing things that may not really benefit the members in the way that...
One of the things that it will be good, but it's not the best thing we could do with our time right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what is it then that keeps you coming back every day to the IPG, to that chief exec role?
It is absolutely that desire to do things even better, that real hunger to give members more, that drive to say, that was amazing. I mean, we've had to move the venue for our autumn conference just simply because it was oversubscribed last year.
Yeah.
And, that's a lovely problem to have, but it's about, we need to make sure that this year it's going to be even bigger and better.
Well, on that note, thank you very much for your time, Bridget.
Thank you, John.
And to everyone else, thank you for tuning in to Talking Through My Hat. This was Talking Through My Hat, a podcast by John Pettigrew, founder of We Are Future Proofs. Please let me know your thoughts by leaving a review at Apple Podcasts or by commenting on the website, myhat.wearefutureproofs.com. You can subscribe to this channel at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Our theme music is from hooksounds.com.